Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Small Account Strategy. We're going to dive back into another Bitcoin technical analysis session here, real quick. Gave it a few days to sort of digest what was going on here. The action has been both expected and yet unexpected. We're looking at the hourly right now on the Bitcoin chart, and as you can see it, yesterday was looking like it was about to start the capitulation process that at least I've been expecting. But as what Bitcoin typically does, it decided to just say, no, fuck that. I'm going to turn right back around and go straight back up over the course of several hours. Now, it has come back up to this current trend line of resistance that we have and was soundly rejected right at about 43,750, somewhere in there. So it's contending with that area now. We're looking at some pretty interesting action over the last few days and weeks. If we pull back here on the weekly, you can see we're sort of filling a pretty defined wedge. We have this lower range here and this upper range here. I'm just gonna lock this layer so I don't accidentally move it. Like, if I were to turn off all drawings and technical analysis on this chart, and I was just looking at it on the weekly, I'd be like, damn, that looks bullish. Like, it looks like it's ready to pop and run higher. And the fact of the matter is it actually might test higher. I actually do see a scenario where Bitcoin does test the, say, $45,000 region. As long as we don't get above, as long as it doesn't start closing daily candles above like the $46,000 range, maybe up to like 46.5, somewhere in there, I'm going to consider this still more likely to roll over. I'd expect it to maybe do something more like this. Maybe that was a little extreme. Probably shouldn't have gone that far. But, we look at the confluences right now. It's really at this pivotal point where I don't want to take a long, and I don't want to expect it to necessarily roll over either. A few videos ago, I did pose the possibility that I thought what we could end up seeing is a muted downside because of the ETF. We got a pretty substantial wick down here. Last week, it wicked down to about 38,720, no, about 38.5, 38.6, somewhere in there. That's a pretty substantial wick down, and it was quick. It was fast. The problem is that RSI and the stochastic RSI do point to lower. I would like to see the RSI come down to somewhere in at least the mid 50s. If we can get the RSI down to about 55, 56, somewhere in there, I would be looking at that as an opportunity. The other thing is, let's zoom out even further. So just take a look at this on the weekly. Like I said, if I were to look at this without any drawings, I would almost say, like, yes, this is going higher. I don't know how much higher, but I could see it breaking above this $44,000 line here. But when we zoom out to the monthly, everything changes. When we zoom out to the monthly, I'm like, that actually looks rather overextended, and it might need to take a break. Because it's very rare that Bitcoin has 6 green candles in a row on the monthly time frame. Rarely do we ever have 6 positive green months. We're currently in the 5th. Tomorrow, actually in about 6 hours from now, we will get a new monthly candle. So that would point to a sixth. Well, it would have to go above these levels for us to have a sixth green candle. It's rare. It rarely happens in Bitcoin. The longest green streak we've ever had of positive monthly candles is 7. That is the most ever green monthly candles we've ever had, and I believe it happened. Was it here? No, that was 6. One of these bull runs, we had 7 green candles. But it's rare. So, again, we are at the top end of that spectrum. We're sort of in outlier mode right now. And usually when you look at these formations, these wick formations, it usually does point to a bit of a cooling down period. Now, we could get something like this formation back here. Back here in July of 2017, these monthly candles here, we had a wick up, somewhat of a doji, and then a hammer doji, which was, incredibly bullish. But I did notice something last night that I wanted to point out as being interesting. I'm actually going to go to a BLX chart on this. So if I'm looking back at these monthly candles for, some sort of guesstimate as to what might happen in the future, there's a few things that we can look at. Like, for example, back here in August of 2020, we were facing a similar formation that we're facing now with 2 prior highs and contending with those with those levels, which is what we're kind of contending with now. Obviously not a one-to-one scenario, not a perfect comparison, but sort of similar. And we have 2 peaks here. We have 2 peaks here. We're contending with this level of a breakout of this former shoulder, essentially. And we got a little bit of a doji candle, a short doji, which that following month we had a red candle down. But then that's when we started our bull run. And that's what we could be potentially looking at now. I would personally love to see a red candle in February. To be honest, if I could choose, I would love to see a formation a lot like this, where we come down for maybe like 2 months, maybe come down into this, mid $30,000 range, and then base, and then go back up. That's what I would prefer. Now, if let's look at the bull market band. There are so many factors pointing to at least a dip down to about the high 36,000 range. In a prior video, I highlighted how every single time Bitcoin has broken through the bull market band, it has never not retested somewhere before ripping higher. So we need a lot of energy to break through this bull market band, first of all. Like it requires a lot of volume to break through the bull market band, especially in the way that we did. We broke through, tested it as support, but we've been significantly above the bull market band for quite some time now, for about three months. Now, we've never not done this and not come down. We have to come down into this range if we want to have a sustained move higher. So there are a lot of indicators pointing to the price of Bitcoin coming down to this high $36,000 range. And I have these target zones identified here as where I'm looking at in terms of potentially adding or starting a position. Again, not financial advice, but this is what I'm looking at. Like I'll be interested again under 40,000. And then once the price starts to approach this bull market band. Now, most of the times when we retest this band, it does usually go a little bit lower. So like that $35,000 region is looking really good because it also lines up with the 618 fib level on the most recent peak. Now, we can draw the fibs any way we want. The issue is that if we draw it from the initial peak, I would think we'd be looking at about, a $35,000 Bitcoin. If we draw it from the second peak, maybe more like a 36,250 Bitcoin. And both of those regions are perfectly acceptable. But we also have to leave on the table the potential for an even deeper retracement. Maybe it's quick. Maybe it only happens over the course of a few hours or a day or two. But we have to leave open the possibility that Bitcoin could still go below $30,000. But I wanted to actually, point out something interesting. Let's turn off the bull market support band here. We had a doji candle, like a super defined doji right here in February of 2023. So just about 1 year ago, we had this situation where Bitcoin bottomed, it broke significantly back above, and then that next month, we had a little bit of a doji, where a doji always indicates a price movement, whether that's higher or lower. That following month always determines where it's going to go in the short to medium term. So we look at the doji we got in February, then March, you look at this from the monthly view and you're like, wow, it just went right up. But you have to notice that it also wicked down. So Bitcoin opened March at $23,100 or so. But it also came down below 20,000 to about 19.5. Now that constitutes a 15% drop. So from where March's monthly candle opened, the low it created, or the low it printed that month, was 15% lower. If we were to do a similar move this coming February, as in tomorrow, a 15% move would point to about a $36,250 Bitcoin. Now, why is that interesting? Because a $36,000 Bitcoin corresponds with our bull market band. That's why I'm highly targeting this area as a potential opportunity. Again, we have to let this play out. Pretty much the entire market is bouncing today. But again, it's the last day of January. Tomorrow's a new month. It might just be setting up for the move to come. Again, RSI. RSI on the monthly for Bitcoin is pegged. It literally cannot go any higher. Or I should say the stochastic RSI is pegged at 100. And it's been there now for 2 months. And yeah, this could go completely sideways at 100 for a long time. But when has this ever happened? This has happened back in December of 2020. It went sideways for about 4 months, right at about 100. But what was happening during that time? We were peaking, like the market was topping for that cycle. And then we had a significant drawdown. Now, I don't think we have this type of drop again, but once it gets up to this 100 level, it literally cannot go any higher. And it has to come down. That's why I'm looking at, even for the stochastic, I'd like to see Bitcoin come down to this 50 level before, starting that next leg higher. So yeah, again, a lot of things pointing to that $36,000 level, high 36. Again, with crypto, we have to take into consideration that almost anything can happen, and lower levels are always possible. Even with a trend line heading up here, maybe catching the bottoms of these candles. I would say for the following month, I suppose it could go as low as below $30,000. I could see it sort of taking out this range, this gap that was never really filled. We have this is the gap that sort of worries me right here. Is this gap right about there? When it broke out on the monthly, and I should probably take out those wicks. When it broke out back in October, we sort of shot up and never came back down. Never tested. You could even say this is the gap here, but this already tested. You know, we already have a wick down. This portion already tested. So, yeah, that's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin. Everything is sort of lining up and pointing to a down February. Whether February closes red or whether we get a wick down, sort of like the March candle we printed last year, either one is a possibility. But if we do get this wick down and Bitcoin closes green or starts closing above 46,000, maybe 46,500, I would be incredibly bullish on that. So we don't have to print a red candle, but we've only ever had 7 red candles ever in Bitcoin's history in a row. 7 consecutive green candles in a row is the longest run it has ever gone on. So this next month would be the 6th, and then that's when you start getting into outlier range where, you know, we've done things that we've never done before. Again, always possible that happens, but the likelihood is better that we come down and hopefully have a red candle for February. And then maybe we'd be looking at a green candle for March. I don't know. We'll have to see what the action is that we get. But you know, there's also, if we go back to the weekly, just to sort of look at one last thing here before I close out the video. I would also be interested to see, February is going to be a pivotal month, I think, either way, because we have the halving coming sometime in May, sorry. The halving's coming in May. Once the halving occurs, that's when anything can happen, I feel like. That's when you want to sort of look at a good time to be positioned, because things are likely about to get interesting. If Bitcoin happens to spend the majority of February staying above the bull market band and staying above $40,000, like if it just sort of comes down and, like, you know, skirts along, just to do another drawing here. Let's see, where's our brush? So if it came down and like just sort of like skirted along here, stayed above 39, somewhere in the 40,000 range, and then like in March and April and wanted to do one of these sort of things, that's a really bad drawing, but let's just do this. We'll just draw one of these little cups here. Maybe it comes down and touches the bull market band. Again, the other way to get to the bull market support band isn't that we have to crash down to it or through it. Price could just stay where it's at, and the bull market support band will come to us. So, you know, the bull market support band could come up here. Maybe the price dips down along with the rise in the bull market support band sometime in March, you know, early March, around that $40,000 range. And if it does not break down through, I think that would be another indicator that we've seen the bottom and things might be pointed completely up. So again, that high $36,000 range comes with a lot of caveats as well. I'd like to see it because, you know, it's a better buying opportunity, but it's all going to be predicated on this bull market support band. I feel like we have got to test it. I'd like to see it go below. Doesn't have to, but I would like to see us test it. Ideally down to at least this 382 fib level from this most recent peak down to 36.2. I would like to see that. That's what I'm looking for. But we'll have to see what we get. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for this Bitcoin video. Might have another one tomorrow. We'll see what happens with action with the new monthly candle. But February is going to be an interesting month. It's going to define, I think, what the spring is going to bring for us. And until then, happy trading.